Okay, we left off on page 42. Okay, 42 in the RaMCHaL, and it's Tachlis Abriya, the objective, the purpose of creation. It's spoken about the human being being the primary creation and the purpose of creation, where he was given the ability either to achieve perfection or to succumb to the deficiencies and the distractions and the temptations of life, which actually would cause him to fail, which would create greater deficiency. And whatever is needed to bring about both was actually provided, is provided by Kodesh Baruch Hu for him to achieve that perfection. And he was created with the power of choice, that he should be the one who determines his own situation, and it's not something which comes from an external source, but rather it's generated from himself, to be able to resemble God, which everything's attributed to Hashem himself. And as a result of that, the level of commonality between the human being and Hashem has a semblance of comparison. So for man to be able to be dovek, to be able to attach himself, to cleave to God at the most advanced level for that reason. This is for the sake of compatibility. The primary creature, in truth, is the humankind. All other creations, whether it's the lower ones, whether it's the exalted ones, including the angels, the greatest angels, they were only created to accommodate on his behalf, to address all his issues of advancement or deficiency. La shlomis inyonov, to bring about the perfection of all aspects of his being. According to all the various categories, multiple categories, which are appropriate, which exist within the person. I mean, you say in terms of ourselves, you speak about a person is a greater Talmud Chacham, a greater tzaddik, a lesser tzaddik. But it's all within a certain realm of limitation. But if you read about the Tanoim, with one Tana, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabbi Yonas ben Uziel, the Gemara says they're both Talmidim of Hillel Hazokein, they're students of Hillel. Rabbi Yonas ben Uziel was the greatest. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was from the lesser Talmidim. They knew exactly what one knew, the other one knew exactly the same amount of knowledge, had identical knowledge. But yet, when Rabbi Yonas ben Uziel would study Torah, the birds that would fly overhead would be burnt by fire. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai not. So what does it say? What is the human being? Just a repository of information? What's perfection? We're talking about a dimension we can't even relate to, where the human being, the Jew, he transcends the cosmos. Every aspect of existence is touched by his what? By his service. So the various aspects of a person's spirituality, the neshama, that has to be addressed, that has to be advanced. I'll give you an example. You should be careful with a less severe mitzvah as a more severe mitzvah, because you don't know the extent of reward. Schar b'hel maleko. As long as you live, you cannot be rewarded for any mitzvah. Any mitzvah. So if that is the case, what is the capacity of the Jew when he does the mitzvah? We can't even relate to what our essence is. So when we speak about things have to be addressed, and Hashem provided in this existence everything that's needed to address every aspect of your spirituality, every classification of your spirituality. V'hine askolo v'chol amidas hatovos, the intellect and all the positive traits, character traits, these are all aspects of perfection which are used, which are necessary to bring the human being to perfection. I'll give you an example. The characteristic trait of compassion, mercy. It's very valuable, but it has to be developed. Why was man given that? There's a mitzvah to be merciful. There's no mitzvah to be merciful. But if you have that trait, characteristic, you're sensitive to many things, that you're able to actually execute many mitzvahs because of that. If you have that compassion, you have that mercy. Besides, mahu afato. There's a mitzvah v'lachta b'jrochov. A Jew has to emulate God's characteristics. Mahu rachum afatate rachum. So if you have that characteristic and you identify with Hashem, you create a likeness. That likeness causes, again, an aspect of compatibility. You have the compatibility, one thing leads to another. You come upon many things. The material, the mundane, the corrupt character traits. This is the deficiency which exists. For instance, cruelty, envy, unsatiable need for material. All this is negative. The person has to somehow rise above that. And as Rambam says, and as he had said before, man can go in either direction. You're at a point where you have full choice to be either A or B. Go to the right, that's referred to as shleimus. That's perfection. You allow yourself to be drawn to the negative, that's deficiency. And you only complicate it to a greater degree. Liknos lo shleimus. You put between there to be able to be in a position to achieve, to acquire perfection for yourself. RaMCHaL says we come to it. Why did Hashem create evil? Not to do evil. Now, it's interesting. The Ramak, he speaks about this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Melech Nelav. Nelav, he's like, almost puts himself in a disgraceful position. He allows himself to be disgraced. God says you should not do something. You're not permitted to commit adultery. You're not permitted to commit murder. You're not permitted to steal. You're not permitted to eat on Yom Kippur. You're not permitted, chas v'sholom, to blaspheme God. All these. But a person who chooses to blaspheme God, God forbid, he has the ability. Who gives him the ability to vocalize and verbalize those words? God. To have the thought process. It's unheard of. God should give the person the ability to do something which is to the most extreme level of disgrace, of desecration. Why does God give the person that ability? Because if he didn't give him that ability, then the positive has no value. You have to be in a position to make choices. I go to the left, I go to the right. I could have gone. I did not go, and I chose not to, but go to the right. So unless you have an alternative to what you have to the positive has no value. So it has to be to the extreme of the negative to give the positive that value. Because I could have done either. I chose to do what God wanted. And what did God want? In the negative, not to do. So you have to have the ability to do, to fulfill the mitzvah of not to do His will. So, and why does Hashem do this? So we speak about Hashem is Tov and He's a Meitiv. He's Tov and a Tov is Meitiv. He's the essence of good in the absolute sense, and He does good. To what degree? Even to the point where it's contrary to His own glory. He gives the human being the ability to do everything to the contrary. There's a Mishnah in Avodah Zarah where the Roman Emperor said to one of the Tanoim that if God doesn't want illegitimacy, why does God allow a woman who commits adultery to conceive an illegitimate child? Right? So we answered him, because that's the way of the world. He said, if the pagans worship the sun, right, should God destroy the sun? There's a process in nature. There's a process. And God lets the process take place. God's not going to destroy the sun because people worship this, or sun worshippers or moon worshippers. V'amin ha'anushi. Now we speak about the human being. What exactly is this species, man? Man was created to cleave to God. Ubotidbok. V'hi hamuteles ben hashlemus v'chesronus. And this creature, this brio, is placed between, in the equidistant point, either to achieve perfection or deficiency. And God gives the person the ability to acquire perfection. I mentioned, the Gemara says in 2 locations, we know that Chaim and Moshe, who were ministers in the court of Nebuchadnezzar, Babylonian emperor, were given a choice, either to bow to his image, his statue, or not. They bow, they live. They don't bow, they're thrown into the kiln. They said, we're not bowing. And they were from Shevet Yehuda. They were from the Davidic line, Chaim, Moshe, Azariah. And they said, we're not bowing. He gives the order that they're going to be thrown into the kiln. Miraculously, they came out of the kiln alive. This is what happened. Now, the Gemara says, if Chaim and Moshe would have been beaten, they couldn't have been able to endure the pain, and they would have succumbed, and they would have bowed to the idol. They would have bowed to the image. It's only because it was instantaneous death they were able to do it. We will not bow, we die. So it's instantaneous. It's not something which it's prolonged. But if it would have been prolonged agony, torture, they couldn't have handled it, dealt with that, and they would have bowed. So Gemara says, if they would have beaten Chaim and Moshe, they would have bowed to the tzelem, to the image. So Tosas asks, idolatry is one of the 3 cardinal sins. It means Chaim and Moshe, they would have done idolatry. He's supposed to give you life. It's Yehor Yarvor. These are the exceptions. You die and you give your life, and you're not permitted to violate the Torah. So Tosas answers an answer. He says it wasn't true idolatry, it was only an image, or whatever he answers. So there's a word, Marshiv Zechron Baruch always used to say from the Chassam Sofer, that in life we have tests. We have trials, we have tribulations. Now, if a test is beyond a person's capacity, it's not a test. So whenever a person is confronted with a test, he has to know he's only confronted because he has the ability to overcome that test. Otherwise, what's the purpose? If you take a person, I want to test the person's strength, and I put 2,000 pounds on his back. Is that testing his strength? That's crushing the person. It's crushing him to death. If it's a question where it's within his capacity, can he not, so that's a test of strength. But something which is beyond, that's not a test of strength. So if the purpose of a test is to test the person, what is his level of dedication to God, to do his will or not? But if the test is beyond his capacity, it's not a test. So when Hashem puts a person in a position either to achieve perfection or deficiency, man has to know he has the ability to achieve perfection. Because if he didn't, what's the point? You're destroying the man. God didn't create a human being to be destroyed. So whenever a person, it's too difficult. There's no such thing as too difficult. It may be more difficult than something else, but it's not too difficult. However, when he has the ability to achieve perfection, but it has to be his choice, as we said earlier, because the person has to have a profile which is similar to God's. That's the Tzelem Elokim. As God chooses to do as He chooses, no one compels him to do. Identically, the human being has to be in a position where he's not compelled, but rather it's his own volition why he's doing the good and not doing the evil. Because if a person would be compelled through his actions to choose goodness, which is perfection, he's not the creator of his perfection. Perfection has nothing to do with him. Somebody takes a person and he does plastic surgery and he looks very handsome. Why does he look handsome? Because he's in his reality he's handsome. Because somebody did the plastic surgery, that's why he's handsome. So if somebody causes a person to become perfect, that perfection, is it attributed to himself? It has nothing to do with him. Person puts a person in a room, only gives him kosher food, and forces him to behave like a tzaddik. And he's doing acts of righteousness, but he has no choice. What does this act of righteousness have to do with him? Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. So therefore, the person has to be put in a position where he always is in a position to choose, right or wrong. And because it's your choice, the perfection you achieve is attributed to yourself. And therefore you're deserving. It's your creation. If it comes from an external source, a person's compelled, you're not the maker. Because you were forced from someone else to achieve that perfection. The one who caused it, who transferred it, he's the one who's the proprietor of that perfection, because he achieved it. And the intent, the advanced intent of God, of what the world should be, will not be addressed. Therefore God was forced kaviyochol, to leave man based on his choice. It's what you choose. A man is put into an equidistant point where he's in an equal balance. He go in either direction. He's not forced to go one direction. We're not saying it's easier to be evil than be righteous. Right? It's gravity. Free fall is down. Up, you got to drag yourself up. So what he says, it doesn't mean to say that it's identically the same. It's not identically the same. It means one is inclined, one can go in either direction, and neither direction is denied to that person. That's the shkula. Doesn't mean an easiness. I mean, the Gemara says that the reason why the hay is shaped where the two legs are wide open, because the reality of the world is, if a person wants to go into free fall, you go out the window, you fall. You want to take your life, your spirituality, and totally forfeit it, you just go straight out through the bottom. But if you want to come back and do tshuva, you can't return the same route. You have to go through that small opening between the left side of the hay and the roof, and you have to squeeze through there. Okay? The RaMCHaL has a whole discussion on that. And God endowed man with the power of choice, with discretion and desire to choose whichever one he wants. It's interesting. What does he have to say? Das is with discretion, understanding. Chayvetz with desire. What have to say? With desire, whichever he wants. Right? Now, if a person does a mitzvah by rote, or just because he has to do it, and a person does a mitzvah with enthusiasm, with vigor, with feeling prideful when he does the mitzvah, it's a different dimension of mitzvah. So there's two things. You could do that. That's within the person's bechira also. But that's within your choice. It can be done b'das, with understanding its value, and this chayfetz. Not only you have a desire to do it, not urge. And man could achieve either one. Okay, nivra adam b'yetzer tov or b'yetzer ra is very important. Therefore, man was created with a positive inclination and a negative inclination. And choice is he could go veer in either direction, to the Yetzer Tov or to the Yetzer Ra. Okay? The Gemara tells us in Makos, whatever path you choose to go, God will lead you on that path. If you want to be a thief, God will give you every opportunity to be a thief. If you want to be a tzaddik, God will give you the opportunity to be a tzaddik. But why? If a person wants to be a thief, why would God allow him to be the thief? It's contrary to his will. Again, but because otherwise the bechira is not correct. The balance has to be a similar type balance. Therefore, you choose to do right, God will assist you. You want to purify yourself, you will merit assistance. You want to contaminate yourself, post alone. They open the door. And God will give you all the opportunities to be able to do the wrong thing. But yet you find a person wants to do the wrong thing, and Hashem doesn't allow him to do the wrong thing. That's only because you have a schus. Because you have a merit, that's what God won't allow you to do the wrong thing. Ulam heyos davar as nishlam karoi. So that God's objective should be addressed and brought to perfection appropriately. Now, if you have just the soul, which has no relevance to the physical, we talk about the Yitzhara, a spiritual being is not subject to an evil inclination. So that means you have to have the makeup of the person has to be something which will be drawn and is vulnerable to the influences of the evil inclination. What is that? That's the physicality of the person. We have desire. Where does desire emanate from? That's from the person. That's the physicality of the person. That's the earthiness. Man is a composite of two elements which are contrary to one another, extreme opposites. Now it's interesting, the Chaim says in one location that to join fire and water together to coexist is easier than infusing a neshama, a soul, into the body. That's how we're talking about. It's not that different. It's not that we're on different planes. It's a different reality of existence. One is a spiritual realm, has no relevance to this existence. And the other, which is unlimited, relatively speaking, it's unlimited. And to take it and put it into a limited, finite location, how do you do it? The answer is God's wisdom decreed it. That's what the answer is. It's interesting. What would be a model of this, a modicum of this? When Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Osli migdashu shachati b'sochem," make for me a sanctuary, I'll dwell in it. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, the world cannot contain your being. How could it be contained, this little small edifice? It's impossible. Impossible. So Hashem says to Moshe, I'll do mine, you do yours. I'll work it out. But that reality is the same thing with the neshama and the body. How could you infuse the neshama? He says that two shnei hafochim, that literally in their makeup they cannot coexist. They're opposites, extreme opposite. There's no word to say how different they are. Fire and water, they're both part of physical existence. By the borrowed, they did coexist. Fire and water. The neshama sichli is zako. The neshama is intellect, purity. Zako means on the level of the open level of pureness. The guf artzi v'ochur. The body is artzi, is earthy. Ochur means murky, lacking in purity. Each one, because of its makeup, it's inclined and leans towards its natural nature, what it's made of. So the body, which is physical, where does it lean towards? Towards anything physical. The soul, which is sichli and purity, it's drawn to something which is pure. Dahainu meaning haguf lachomrius. The body is drawn after the material, and the neshama lasichlius, and the neshama is drawn after intellect. V'simotzi b'nei milchama, and now we have a struggle. There's a battle between the soul and the body. Who actually overtakes the other? Who is the director? If the soul should win over the body and be victorious, the neshama will become advanced, and the body becomes sanctified, and the body becomes advanced. And that person ultimately will be perfected with the perfection at the end of time, which is the ultimate perfection, which he discusses later. If a person allows himself to be overtaken by the material, the body will be denigrated, be lowered, and the soul will be lowered. This person will not be appropriate, will not be worthy of perfection. And it's denied him. I'll give you an example. A person hasn't bathed in years, and literally his body is decaying, and he has a putrid stench. And they say, we'd like to put on the most special regal garments fit for a king on you. Is it appropriate? It's not possible. It doesn't go together. A person who sins and allows the physical to overtake the soul, which lowers the soul, lowers himself. He has no relevance to shlemus, to perfection any longer. The nidche, chas v'sholem, and he's cast aside. He's disqualified because he has no relevance. How could you be perfect? The person has the ability to what? To lower and to dominate the physical through his intellect and his neshama, and to acquire perfection. But good, it takes effort. You have to apply yourself. It's not simple. Read in Pirkei Avos, Ein lecha ben choran l'misha osik b'Torah. Right? What are you talking about? A person is not an observant Jew. He eats what he wants, drinks what he wants, goes where he wants. He's not bound by time, by nothing. He's not a ben chorin. He's a free man. Is he free? Ein lecha ben chorin l'misha osik. Talmud Torah, only the person who studies, who engages in Torah study. He's the true free man. When he's a free man. Seemingly, yes, the world, that other man's a lot freer than this person. So what's the answer? Who dictates this person's behavior, his desires? The man who's so-called the free man, what society calls the free man. He can do anything he wants. And what does he want to do? Whatever his desire drives him, that's where he goes. He's not doing what he wants. He's controlled by his desires. He's a slave of his desires. The person who allows his spirituality to have the upper hand, he's not a slave of anybody. He's a servant of God. That's something exalted. That's something which is prestigious, not comparable. So therefore, how do you achieve that? I've created the Yitzhara, the evil, and I've created the Torah as the antidote. So when you dispel and you release the Yetzirah, that he cannot influence you, he does not have this vice grip on you, then you're truly Bechorah. So why are you doing what you're doing? Because my intellect tells me to do it. And a person has a natural sense of right and wrong, he does what's right. But why is he doing what's right? There's nothing controlling him and dictating to him. So that's it. Okay? Gozev Tuvo Yisborg Shmo. God's goodness decreed. It's within limits that a person is able to achieve perfection. And when he completes his initiative, the Hishtadlus, Yasik Shlem Musa V'Yaniach Ba'aval Netzach Tzachim, who will achieve perfection, and who will dwell in a state of pleasure forever. Al Kain Huchko Lo Shnei Zmanim, therefore the two times, the two periods of time in existence. Echod Zman Avoda, it's Hayom Lasosam, L'moch L'kabel Schorim. Today you do. Today, this world is the doing world. Where you can be rewarded, it's the world to come. Therefore, he says the world has been divided into two parts. Echod Zman Avoda, the time of the Avoda. Echod Zman Kibul HaSocher. The other is the time that you're worthy to receive reward for your dedication and sacrifice. Ula Midas HaTov Ruba. What pertains to Gula is more. Sha'avodi yesh lo zman mechukok. The time to serve God is a specific time. Within 70 years, what you're able to achieve, the reward is endless. Whatever level of perfection you achieve in this world, you have, as discussed, in the world to come, forever. It's forever. Ulam, however, kefishis chalig zmano, as time changes, Kain Roy, she's Chalif Matzov, one's predicament should change. Ushar Mikrov, and everything else that he's exposed to. Yeah. Kucholzman Hishtadlus, whenever we're in a position that we could take initiative, in Etzorch Shea Betchun Achas. Lo Lefi, to an Achash Yuchel Limotzi Bo, Ki Kol Hinyonim Hamtzarch Lo Lefi Inyan Hishtadlus Hazer. He says, when we're in a position to take initiative, we should have that one perspective. And as a result of that, whatever is needed to bring that about, that will include the initiative, Pirush. Nobody escapes this battle. There's a battle between the physical and the spiritual and the intellect. There's nothing to hold back the material to get the upper hand. And nothing could stop the intellect from taking control and doing it. I mean, as much as a person understands what the purpose is, you still have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to do certain things. That's basic amenities. That's what he's saying. Even if the seichel, the intellect, should win out, a person should not allow the material to intensify more than it's appropriate. You see, you always have to keep a balance. Until the last moment of your life, you're subject to choice. But if a person becomes so empowered that nothing could move him, that means you don't have choice any longer. Right? So there's always nuances of choice. I always give an example. I spoke of this a few weeks ago. It says, you have to appoint in every community of 120 people, Shochim v'Shochim. Shoftim, judges and law enforcers. Now, if you have that in every town, you have a town as few as 120 people, have a bezdin of 23, could put a person to death and flog him, and you have law enforcers on top of that. Who in his right mind is going to sin? You get a set of lashes, 39 lashes. The person can be crippled for the rest of his life. Right? So who in his right mind is going to eat nevelo, not kosher meat? Who's going to do the wrong thing? And Bezdin has the power, is empowered by the Torah to give lashes or to cane the person even where the Torah doesn't prescribe it. Okay? So, but why are they doing it? They're doing it to protect the Torah. Right? That's what they're doing it. So. But even they protect Torah, but it's protected to a point. Man doesn't have choice any longer. If you want to violate Shabbos, you can't violate Shabbos. You'll be put to death. You want to eat not kosher, you're going to get lashes, malchus. You'll be incapacitated for years. Who's going to enter here? So by installing this system, judicial system, enforcement system, every community, we forfeited the ability to make a choice. So how do you understand it? So what I said was that choice doesn't have to manifest itself in a way. Choice in terms of what God wants. Are you a base level Jew or are you a quality Jew? And if you're a quality Jew, there are many levels of quality, many levels of lishmo. There's many levels of reverence. That's what God says. That's where I want you to be. I don't want you to go beyond the bottom line. To go into the -0 column. To go -0. That's definitely not. Of course, you have that ability, but that's not what God expects. Yeah. Pirush. You're forced. There has to be this ongoing battle between the intellect and the physicality of man. And there should be nothing in existence that will prevent the material taking over the life of the spouse. Yeah. Because if in any way the intellect gets the upper hand or the physical, you're no longer in a balance. What do you mean? You find people, as much as they want to choose to do good, they can't do good. He says he can't allow each one to become empowered beyond a certain point, because then you no longer have free choice. So is that when we start out? What about over time? Let's say a person addicts himself, becomes addicted to material. You have no control of your life any longer, right? It's no different than an addict. So what I said was this. Let's say a person goes, I said over the Chassam Sofer, that if they would have beaten, Chaim would have bowed to the idol. So why didn't they beat them? Exactly, because God only gives a test to the degree that a person has the capacity to withstand the test. It would have been too much. What about a person himself choosing to go out on a limb and put himself in a situation of tremendous temptation? God didn't put him there. He chose to put himself in that. Is it guaranteed he's not going to succumb? It's not guaranteed. If God puts you somewhere, guaranteed you have the ability to deal with whatever those issues are. But if not, no guarantees. So it's possible that you're no longer in the equidistant point. Even though it seems it would be better that the positive side should be empowered and always have the upper hand over the material, but he says, but according to the intent, the original pure intent of creation, to achieve, to acquire perfection through one's initiative, it's not good. Because what? You didn't create it. To whatever degree the material dominates, what it does, it darkens, it blackens, and prevents the neshama from attaching itself to the Creator. So therefore, if that's the case, the neshama should have the upper hand. But ultimately, that's not the case either. There always has to be this balance. He can't. Hashem will not allow one to have the upper hand over the other. Now the question is this: if the power of a mitzvah is so intense and so overwhelming that the body can't contain it, and you can't live enough years to be paid out for it, so how does it not take over the body? How does it not take over? How does it not have the upper hand? Right? So he's going to explain that when you do a mitzvah, everything is in potential regarding reward. It's not there yet. So I'd say there's no reason to engage in the material, right? So he's going to explain like this: if Hashem would allow the effect of mitzvah to overtake you, you'll never sin. You will never sin. You become superhuman. Because you have such a, not only clarity, it's so integrated, the Kedusha in your essence, you have no relevance to anything that exists in the world. So Hashem goes and doesn't let it expand. Doesn't let it expand. It's contained within that. So he says, God created two worlds, olamos, olam hazeh, olam haba. Olam hazeh, what's this world? Hamokom v'achukim nitzavim shelo. The location for what? For all natural laws, natural order. Hinim asher roi lo'odom kozman ishtadlus. What's appropriate for man to be exposed to, involved in at the time of his initiative, achievement? For olam haba, what's olam haba? Hamokom v'achukim shelo. It's hamokom v'achukim. Its location and its criteria. Heim asher roi lo bezman kibul sochar. U'mashi yitztorach od lo das. Shini mina anusha, what you have to know in addition, that the humankind ein inyono harishon k'mo she'anu roin mafchidim osa'ato. It's not to be understood as his present situation. Let's talk about this. When Adam was created, the Gemara says his height was from the earth to the heaven. He was able to see from one end of the earth to the other. He radiated a radiance that the Malachim had mistaken his radiance for God's radiance. They started to say Shira to Adam Arisha. What happened? That's what he's going to discuss now. What happened? How could he go and diminish himself to such a degree? He had to do something very drastic. He says, Hine Adam Rishon Beis Yisrael so Yimamish was a Matzu Zacharnu. Dainu Sho Yemurkav Min Shnei Chalokim Hafchim Shamarnu. Adam initially, when he was created, Adam, he also was a composite. He had a soul and he had a body. The body, as it says, Torah, was made of earth, and the neshama is chelo kamimal. Shem neshama aguf umamtzi so yishnei inyonim. But each one represented something other than hatov hara, good and evil, who omei b'shikul b'neim. The doveg b'mashi yirtzemehim. You're in the balance, and you have the ability to attach yourself whichever one you want, the good or evil. What should Adam have chosen? What's good? What would have been good? Not to eat of Deitz Hadas, not to eat of tree of knowledge. The Yagvi Nishmos al Gufo, and then what would have been? The Neshama would have been empowered over his body. The Sichlo al Chomro, and the intellect over the material. And then he would have achieved perfection immediately. The perfection of existence would have come about at that moment. And he would have remained basking in that state of perfection forever. He had just a slight way to go, but he just had to get there. So because the Eidim Das not only did not get there, he took everything down. Everything was totally dismantled. Although it's a person sense his soul, we don't sense it, our soul. The only thing that, what does the neshama provide? Intellect and life. Okay, I think we'll stop here.